Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of To Bargain with Mortals by R.A. Basu. This is a political fantasy coming out October 28th, 2025 from Skies Press via Bindery Books. I received this from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. An absorbing political fantasy, To Bargain with Mortals raises relevant and interesting questions about identity and the dynamics of colonial power. I love that cover, by the way. What is it about? An outcast heiress, a notorious gang leader, a country on the brink of revolution. In the colonized nation of Viriana, Poppy Sutherland lives between cultures. As the brown-skinned adopted daughter of the viceroy, she is both rejected by white high society and alienated from the people of her native island. When she discovers her opportunistic fiancé's plot to exile her, Poppy flees, straight into the clutches of the Jackal. Hassan Devar, the ruthless criminal known as the Jackal, has long been targeted for his family's divine magic, a gift the colonizers have tried to stamp out. When his brother is arrested, he seizes Poppy as leverage. But Poppy has powerful secrets and political ambitions of her own. As allies, they could do more than just free Hassan's brother and keep Poppy safe. They could topple the very power structures that hold them all back. So this book has lots of layers. You think you know what it's about and how the trajectory will go, but there are so many different facets that change not only where the story goes, but how you feel about the characters as it goes along. I thought the book raised some really great thought points, but some of them were a little bit just heavy-handed. This is a political fantasy, but not on a larger scale. It's not so much a government political fantasy as a takeover the government story in a way. The characters I thought were great. All of them are realistic people that are heavily flawed. They're a bit young, kind of like mid-20s, but I think that actually helped explain a lot of their actions. Older people often get trapped in systems of power that exist simply because we're so wearied and concerned with our immediate issues, like kids or careers and stuff. We are more prone to complacency, especially if things are fine for us. Young people are less set in their ways and more likely to take risks. I saw some reviewers, because I always look at reviews just to see if I'm in the majority or not when it comes to opinions. I saw some reviewers saying that the book reads like YA, and as someone who does not like YA, if you follow my channel, you know this, I disagree with that. I think the writer is young, and that is reflected in the story just a little bit. That being said, the writing is good. It flows fast and the dialogue is engaging. The prose isn't overly lyrical, but it's very descriptive. I think this writer has a lot of talent, and I think that as she grows as a writer and as a person, I think her stories are going to become more nuanced and almost more polished, and I think that's awesome to see. In terms of characters, Poppy is a person of color adopted into a white, powerful family on a colonized island where her people are treated quite poorly. Her struggles are many. If her father dies, she loses her status, so she's trying to marry her way into keeping that, but soon realizes that this is just another cage. On top of this, she is treated as an outsider by most of the racist upper class, yet she wasn't also allowed to learn her birth parents' culture, so she's an outsider there as well. She doesn't really fit in anywhere, and she finds that she struggles with that a lot. What's good about this, narrative-wise, is that we learn about the culture as she does, so there aren't really any info dumps. This also allows the more nuanced aspects of the colonized people's situation to be revealed as we go as well, such as the historical caste system within the colonized group that is preventing them from rising up. And then we have Hassan, a revolutionary who is very morally gray. He's, a murderer, though he justifies it to himself as well as a smuggler, yet he's also an idealist and a revolutionary. His journey is learning that he holds his rigidity in his idealism and has to learn to accept other methods of doing things. He has a whole other arc as well about his family too, but he's also kind of a well-layered, very in-depth character. And that's just touching on the surface of this book. I haven't even talked about the villain or any of the other side characters, and I'm not going to. And then we have the magic system, which ties heavily into all of this, but not in a Deus Ex Machina way that I sort of was fearing would happen when it started to develop. I was kind of like, oh, are we going to get one of those? But we don't get one of those. We do kind of, but it's in a way that made sense. It's hard to describe. Anyway, the magic system is very simple yet effective and very organically woven into the story. I could have used a bit more on the world building outside of the island. We get glimpses into the outer world, but I wasn't sure how big this island was in comparison to the rest of the world, like for example. Then again, this book is very much about this particular island, so bringing international politics into it would have been a bit much. It would have kind of bloated the book quite a bit. Tied to that, one thing I found really interesting about this novel, and it kind of endeared it to me in a great way, is how the government seemed to function. We don't get a lot of stuff like in Parliament, but the stuff we do get reminded me very heavily of the Canadian political system. Of course, I looked it up later, and it's actually based on the colonial Indian system, which, while they aren't the same, are actually quite similar, both being colonies with government solidified around the same time. Phrases like royal assent, for example, will tip me off to this. And since the author is Canadian and Ontario, represent, I wonder how much of our constitutional monarchy influenced this setting too. As a huge political nerd, like I am a really big political nerd. I listen to like 4 political podcasts a week, and they're like the only podcasts I listen to. No true crime for me. I don't like true crime. It scares me. I must admit that I really liked this. I loved this aspect. I wanted to see more of this. But the problem is that you'd have to sort of explain the parliamentary system. And a lot of the, Canadian and assuming Indian system too is a sort of blend of systems that developed over time. So it would require explaining a lot of that, which would bog down the narrative quite a bit. I mean, I would get all giddy about it, but I'm sure most people would not and be like, what is this? Either way, it still works for me. I liked that part. One more thing. Given this is a duology, something I thought might be building in book 1 might happen in book 2 instead. Well, I think the pairing would make sense, and I kind of shipped it. There are a few problematic elements that would have to be addressed first, if they are addressed, and it doesn't take over the plot. I think I'd really enjoy that aspect. If it doesn't happen, honestly, it might be a bit refreshing, but I also love a love story, so I wouldn't be opposed to it either way. Overall, I requested this book on NetGalley because it said political and the cover was cool, and I ended up really enjoying it. So thank you so much to NetGalley and the publisher for the e-arc. I really appreciate it, and I will definitely read book 2. So thanks.